Why the hell won't NIO stock go up? We're going to talk about that in this video. We're going to talk about the truth. All right. This is going to be just such an important video for you guys. So buckle your seatbelt, hang on tight. All right. But of course, before we talk about the bad, the truth, we got to talk about the good. Now, the good, of course, on May 10th, they're going to start selling the 5566. NIO has officially released images of these two cars, these four cars, and they look spectacular. And one thing we got to note is that there's actually going to be a table on the back of the ES6, which looks very, very nice. And apparently, these will also have newer seats, which are incredibly comfortable. And we know that ES6 is NIO's best seller. So, with all these improvements, I think this could be a very big blockbuster car for NIO in 2025 and 2026. They're probably going to sell a lot of them, okay? And a lot of the changes that people wanted, table, horizontal screen, more comfortable seats, they're all in this car, okay? So very high hopes. I have very high expectations for the success, and I'm very optimistic about the success of the new 5566 coming out very soon, all right? So you can order it on May 10th. Very nice. The other good news, the delivery centers packed with cars being delivered, not just NIO, but also Onvo, also Firefly cars being delivered. And we recently had vacation, so now, we're back in full swing, pumping out cars, delivering cars. Quite recently, they ran massive promos, so they do have a lot of cars, a lot of customers, a lot of orders to be delivered. So very good. Potentially, this month, we might see over 30,000 deliveries because of the fact that we have the new 5566. So I'm very, very optimistic on that as well. Okay? Now, time to get to the painful part of the video. Why the hell is NIO stock so damn low? Of course, it's all from losses, but of course, why? Right? What's going on with this? And I think, China is very important, but we also have to look at another big loss factor. This is, of course, Europe. Apparently, according to a NIO owner in Europe, and also according to people that a content creator here in China that went and investigated and actually went to Europe, things aren't looking too well. And we're just going to talk about the problems, okay? And so first of all, let's talk about the NIO owner from Europe who kind of talked about how NIO has really taken a passive approach. So they're not being proactive, according to him. And there seems to be a lot of dissatisfied NIO owners there. And, it seems like it's just, I'm not too sure why they're dissatisfied. I mean, the cars are great products. I'm nothing wrong with my car, right? And is it the service? I think, well, they do have a third party for service. It's not NIO service over there. So service is a little bit different from China. But I would think that, the cars are great. So it seems like something's going wrong there with the customer satisfaction level. And we know for a fact that here in China, there's like a 70% referral rate. So people are very satisfied with the cars. They recommend the car to friends and family. And 70% of NIO sales come from referrals. So that's definitely not a good sign that customers aren't happy there. Not too sure exactly why. But then there's this other video that I stumbled across, and this is a content creator here in China who went to Denmark to explore what's going wrong with NIO there. So previously, NIO hasn't been doing too well in Denmark, and they kind of sort of pulled out of Denmark. So, it's kind of unfair to just say Denmark represents the entire European continent. NIO is doing quite well in Sweden and Norway and Germany, relatively speaking. But when they went there, she discovered that the Denmark Denmark has one store, all right, and the Denmark store is located 22 kilometers from the city center, on the like off a remote highway. Okay, so that's obviously like, who's gonna like go there unless you're resting at that highway resting area. It's very hard to find, right? And then the other thing is the only swap station they have in Denmark is an hour drive away from that store. Like, so, uh, well, okay, they only have one swap station, and it's primarily used by German or Swedish NIO owners and NIO owners from other countries. But okay, and that's not even a huge problem. The problem is, of course, the pricing, and it seems like, well, for starters, the cheapest NIO, the Model Y, is 30% cheaper than the cheapest NIO there, according to the sales rep. And the sales rep also told that content creator that apparently the prices are so damn high, like an ES8, it's priced as much as a Porsche. And then, obviously at that price, I wouldn't say Porsche is better. I'd say NIO is better than Porsche, but it's kind of like a little bit too unaffordable. And she also did some interviews with some of the locals. People don't know about battery swap. Also, they kind of just got used to charging, and they don't know battery swap exists. They'd never heard of it. So clearly, like customer knowledge isn't quite there yet. But they did have to say that in some other European places like Sweden and also Norway, the customer education has been executed very well. So people do know about battery swap, most people, okay? But over there in Denmark, people don't know about it. And that's clearly an issue, right? You gotta, let people know about it. And another big problem is, of course, according to this person, the content creator, the new houses are a little bit too extravagant. Like the one in Netherlands, apparently it's like 7-8 floors, yes, but they only use the first floor, and the rent on that is just extreme. All right, and most car companies, they go dealership model, even like a BBA apparently, and it's only like Tesla and NIO that's doing direct to sales. And those NIO houses, they cost a lot in rent. And what that content creator was suggesting, look at BYD. BYD only has one direct to sales store, whereas everything else is dealership. And NIO should absolutely, just take the difficult decision to close the NIO houses and then go with dealership models to sell the cars, lower their expenses. And that's, I think that's absolutely true, right? Dealerships are incredibly important. I know for Firefly, they're going to do that approach with many different countries in the world, which is going to be very, very nice. And also, I forgot to mention this. Why are the prices in Denmark so extremely high? According to the sales rep, which the sales rep also thought the price was bonkers. It was decided by NIO's headquarters, which was located in China, and they clearly didn't seem to do that much market research. Apparently, people there don't really view cars as a status symbol, like here in China. They view cars more of just a transportation tool, all right? And they want to get like a cheap car, and that's it, all right? The guy he interviewed in that video was driving a secondhand Kia, and it was incredibly cheap, 170,000 Danish dollars. Whereas a NIO ES8 costs up to 1 million Danish dollars. And the content creator concluded that it's kind of a situation where the average daily person, the average civilian, can't afford a NIO over there. And then the people that can afford don't really, know about it, or they don't really like view NIO as a similar level as Porsche and those other guys. So it's kind of a bit of a struggle. But in my personal opinion, you know, the amount of the education, all right, the education is very important. People got to know about battery swap, and the content creator also shared the fact that the website ads and everything, it doesn't really the website apps, they don't prioritize battery swap at the very top, which is of course the core selling feature, which is a little bit disappointing. But this, of course, Europe does lose NIO a lot of money. And right now, NIO in Europe, I gotta say, they're taking a passive approach. That makes sense, because NIO isn't really willing to spend a lot of money to pour money into advertising. If they want sales to do well, they really have to do that. But they're really focusing on profitability in Q4, and to achieve that, they can't, splurge on advertising and waste money in that way. So it becomes a situation where you want NIO to do well in Europe, but then also you're trying to save money, save costs. So it doesn't make sense to splash money in advertising. So they're just taking a passive approach. It all comes down to losses, guys. All right, losses. The NIO's having too much losses, man. The SG&A expenses on the rent of stores, just too high. They gotta really find a way to lower it down. Expo, a few years back, they went away with direct to sales and switched to pure dealership, and that has really benefited them tremendously. And I think for NIO, they gotta do a similar approach in some of the different countries out there. And direct to sales is just carries too much of a burden. You have to not only build the new houses, you also have to build the swap stations, and then in some aspects some of the service as well. So it's not just bringing the cars there, it's way more. You have a lot more expenses. So expansion is very expensive. They should really look into dealerships, and I know that for a fact they are. But for now, they're doing very hard cost-cutting measures, and they said that we'll see that in the Q2 earnings report. So hopefully by then, we'll see some reduction in SG&A cost and that kind of stuff. And they're targeting profitability in Q4. Hopefully they can achieve that. And that's, if we start seeing those big costs get lowered, reduced, that's going to be a real bullish catalyst for NIO stock. But for now, if you're losing $700 million a quarter US dollars, and then last quarter $900 million, oh my God, that's not looking too good, right? That's why the stock is down. Until they can reduce that down to 300, 200, 100, and then even positive, that's when we're going to see real explosive move on NIO stock. All right. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.